We are in shambles here. No Chris Moxley. Austin has demanded that the CFF guide be pushed up a few weeks, so he is out, has been writing in the writing mill. There's a lot going on here. In the C2C Slack, the group is dunking on me because I dared to post a poll question about who would lead the Wake Forest Demon Deacons in receiving this year. The guy who drops the ball a lot, A.T. Perry or Donovan Green, who was on his way to, having an excellent junior season before he was injured last year. And then on Twitter, Matthew and Austin are getting an argument because Matt is once again touting a truly unremarkable prospect in every single way. And Katin Houser, again, with this young player who's going to unseat an incumbent. He has a better shot than Kyle McCord at unseating C.J. Stroud. But, Matthew, Katin Houser wasn't even a full-time starter in high school. Can you justify why you think he's going to start at Michigan State?
Yeah, for starters, I said next year. I didn't go full Kyle McCord here, which is what I'm probably going to have to start calling. It's going to become a verb now for us. I didn't go full Kyle McCord and say he's going to beat out the guy this year. But I don't think Peyton Thorne is anything remarkable. And if Michigan State takes a small step back this year, which I do think is possible, they may already look to the future and go to Katin Houser. I don't think that he is just an average prospect. I think he's a little bit above average. He made it into our tier 2. I wasn't the only one who voted him there in our freshman guide. I know Austin does not like him that much, and that's because he didn't make it into, I'm almost positive he made it into tier 2, didn't he? Yeah, he did. Very bottom, tier 2.
Did you my guy him?
No, you guys wouldn't let me because you said I my guide like half the other players in the guide. So no, I did not. I my guide Gavin Sawchuk. That was who I my guide. You guys still wouldn't let me move him up. Anyways, back to Houser. The thing with Houser is he doesn't have the strongest arm, but I do think he's got very solid mechanics. He's a decent enough athlete. He's not Pierce Clarkson, but I do think that has to be put into that has to be relevant for us when we're talking about this. Both Austin and myself, I don't really know where the rest of our recruiting team stands on Clarkson, but I'm almost positive Austin and me both have him 5 or 6 in our quarterback rankings currently. And he was able to keep him off the field for the most part. That has to matter. Someone like Houser's a better prospect than I think we're giving him credit for. He's also young. He's only 17 years old right now. I don't think we're factoring that into the situation either. He's still got a lot of room to grow. I just don't think Peyton Thorne is he's an average quarterback, and I think Houser's got some things that are better than that. And if he goes in there, he could play well and be very good for Michigan State. I'm not saying he's going to be an NFL prospect or anything like that, but the more and more we look at this class, it's really looking like Devon Brown is going to end up being the standout guy, especially if he ends up winning that job next year. There's a lot of questions about a lot of these guys. Everybody has a lot of questions about Drew Waller now with what he did in spring. And in that spring game, we're continuing to find, Cade, because he's likely going to get to start at some point in time at Clemson. But we just seem to be continuing to get more and more questions about this quarterback class. And I think there's a clearer path for Houser right now than there is for other guys in this class. And that's why I talked about moving him up. And I think he's got a chance to beat out Thorne.
As Matthew mentioned, both Katin Houser and Pierce Clarkston shared time at Prep Powerhouse St. John Bosco. Clarkston is a 2023 prospect, and he's committed to Louisville and will be coming to the Derby City next season. Clarkston providing more of the dual threat ability.
I'd like to point out, Moxley, that I did not bring up Ohio State first. That was Felix, so I just went off that. I feel like I get a lot of hate thrown my way, but I only brought them up because Felix brought them up. That's all I have to say about it.
The podcast is doing so well that the main audience is one of the hosts. So go ahead. What were you going to say, Austin?
It is on the official Devy Debate bingo card. Is Matt says Ohio State the free space in the middle? Do we just?
Oh, absolutely.
Do we even give that to people as a space to mark off?
You know what? I guarantee if you go back through at least the last 3 episodes, I did not talk about Ohio State. I've made it a conscious effort not to do that and not to yell because my good friend, I forgot his name now. That's how important he is to me. But
you forgot your good friend's name?
Good friend, I think, is a relative term. His wonderful review that he left on our poor campus to Canton feed for Austin and Colin catching strays for my Ohio State bias.
Someone's gonna listen to our show now and be like, "What was that guy talking about?"
I know.
It's like these people yell over each other and like only talk about Ohio State. He's gonna listen to one of our episodes and be like, were they on tranquilizers that night? I don't really get it.
I mean, it's not like they're a bad team. He's an Alabama fan. We talk just enough about Alabama as well. Like, it's not like we're talking about Toledo over here. We have to talk about Ohio State. They have good players. They're going to continue to have good players.
Should we bring this back to Katin Houser? I feel like you drifted it away on purpose because you don't want to
No,
hear
I
the
didn't.
truth.
I just wanted to answer Mosby's question. Go ahead.
The problem with a player like Katin Houser is that he doesn't really provide much with his legs, so he has to just obviously outperform the incumbent there, which I think is an issue. I mean, I think it's like you kind of learn lessons along the way from all these guys, and they're not like hard and fast rules. And we're going to talk about lessons we've learned in a minute. This is a more specific example. Like, I think Josh Rosen was kind of the last year that like a guy that can't run really at all. Like, we thought very highly of him. I'm really skeptical of those guys moving forward. Like, I don't think Houser is a runner at all. In fact, I think he's probably going to end up being like a negative in the rush game. So for him to overtake a guy like Peyton Thorne, I mean, Michigan State won 10, 11 games last year. Houser threw for like 3,300 yards, a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, like completed over 60% of his passes. He makes the offense click. I don't know that you're a coaching staff that is going to try to get away from a guy like that. Just like, I'm not. And the thing about him, Peyton Thorne, the incumbent starter at Michigan State, is that I don't think he's good enough to head to the NFL after next year. Like, he is a guy that's going to stretch his college eligibility as much as he possibly can, because he doesn't have an NFL future. Like, once he hangs up those pads, he's going to be selling you insurance tomorrow. So I think both like that. I don't think Katin Houser is currently rosterable in like a normal 12-team, 45-man roster league, because you have to sit with them on your bench for 2 years. I don't know, but in a Devy league, like, I'd have to be in like that pinnacle of Devy league to think about him, like, legitimately, because there is going to be no value add at all over the next 2 years.
Colin was the one who ranked him in the Devy. I did not, actually. So, and he tried to call me out on that. Where I guess we disagree is I don't think Thorne stays there for two. Like, I agree he's not going to the NFL, but I also don't think Michigan State follows up this year with 10 wins. I think they could realistically take a decent step back. And if that happens, I think they will move on from Thorne because he is just average. At that point, I think they will go with, okay, they went and got Houser for a reason. Like, that his name has jumped out of my head for a minute. I cannot for the life of me think of Mel Tucker. Mel Tucker went and got Houser. That was the guy he wanted. We've seen how much that matters to some of these guys. Like, I don't think he starts this year. I'm not trying to say that. It's going to be Thorne. But if they take a decent step back, if they only win 6 or 7 games, I don't think they'll bring Thorne back the next year. I think he'll be gone somewhere else and playing another year, just not for Michigan State, and they'll hand the reins over to Houser. Agree, he doesn't bring much with his legs. I'm not saying he's going to be a massive CFF guy or, again, even an NFL guy. I just think he will be the starter for the Spartans next year.
Matthew has not learned his lesson to supplant incumbents with these, these freshmen who aren't necessarily in an elite tier.
Katin Houser body 6/15/20 at 8:30 p.m. Just for my notes.
You have this file of information of things that I've said about your guys. I mean, you're going to be holding on to that file.
It's really only come down to it's practically been renamed the Kyle McCord file, and we've still got time for that.
If something ever happens to Matt, the dead man switch that goes off is going to just absolutely nuke campus to campus.
I mean, and again, I will also say it's not just that. Like, I released one of them, and it was about the Kylan Hill thing. Like, I've got more of those. I save them just for
that wasn't even that bad. That wasn't even that bad.
You said he was going to be a 3rd-round draft pick. And we bet.
And he was a 5th-round draft? He was a 5th-round draft pick.
He was a 6th-round draft pick, which is what I said he was going to be.
All right.
Felix
Austin
says that's a hit.
It is. Yeah, he got drafted, right?
I mean, when you're pulling from deep, it is a hit. Well, even though Kylan Hill is not a deep pull. We've been playing campus to Canton leagues for a while. I mean, not a while. I mean, probably as long as anybody. Austin, you talked about lessons. You alluded to what we're getting into tonight. What would you say you've learned in playing for 3-4 years or so?
Yeah, I think this is my 4th off season with C2C leagues. It's really, really tough to learn like definitive lessons, because every time you think you've got something figured out, the next off season happens, and it shows you how little anybody actually knows. Even some of these colleges can't recruit these kids and develop them correctly. The best of the best. I think the big lesson, in my opinion, that I've learned is honestly just stick with your gut. The times that I've gone away from what I feel within like the realm of like realistic expectations, I feel like if I go away from that and I'm wrong, it hurts way worse than if I'm wrong sticking with my guys. If Jaden Blue stinks in college, Texas recruits over him next year, he never makes it at Texas, he goes somewhere else. The true freshman running back there for the Longhorns that I've hyped just uncontrollably over the last 18 months. If he never becomes anything, I have a lot of him on rosters. That'll hurt. But it won't hurt as bad as if I start hearing other people say, well, I think maybe, they've got Ruben Owens in the 2023 class they might recruit. And like Roshan Johnson is actually good. He's not. Jonathan Brooks is actually good. He's not. Like hearing, getting the doubts and skipping at Jaden Blue and then him blowing up would hurt a million times worse to me. So I think just like stick with your gut. But you have to balance it with change your opinion with new information. So it's like it's such a tough balance beam, but I really do think that's just the biggest thing. I think you'll end up having a better time, and I think your teams will end up better if you stick with your own gut.
The uncertainty is constant in college football when you're trying to set these lineups. Not only injuries, but the fact that a whole class of players cycles out every single year. I mean, in the dynasty space, I'm sorry, but you can put Patrick Mahomes at the top of your dynasty rankings for the next however many years. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. You don't really have to figure things out. In Campus to Canton, at least on the college side, you are in a constant state of having to figure things out, who the next class is, who's good, who's not. I mean, we're going to talk tonight about what the 2023 C2C rankings are going to look like. It's terribly difficult. We got to consider kids who haven't even begun their senior seasons of high school yet, and seeing, are these guys going to be, in the top 10 in our rankings in 2023? I think embracing that uncertainty is part of the joy of Campus to Canton leagues, is that it is constant and you can never really let your guard down, and you always got to be studying up. I like that. It feels like golf is a sport that you never really master. It feels the same way with C2Cs. The other thing that I would note is I've noticed that for some the NFL championship teams, some of them are not like rosters that you would see winning championships in traditional dynasty leagues. Like their RB1 might be, a Donta Foreman. They're relying on players who probably aren't cracking the starting lineup in most 12-team dynasty leagues, and it's just because it's harder to develop a roster, and so your championship level roster may be in tatters just a bit. So that's the other thing that I learned. I would say that I learned some things about myself as far as what positions I can evaluate, because I think that I can evaluate the quarterback position pretty well. Damn it, I have a hard time with the wide receiver position. I just have a hard time with the wide receiver position. And Austin is shaking his head and laughing. So, but it's fun. I mean, it's a constant journey. I'm not afraid of that. It's something that I'm going to get better at. So, Matthew, what about you?
Yeah, one of the biggest things I've taken away, my first couple years, I really approached this like I did Dynasty League football. And what I mean by that is when you have your freshman supplemental drafts, when you do that in a Dynasty League, most of the time, you're not going after any of these vets or guys who, don't have real upside in their future. You're going strictly after these rookies I've kind of learned that if we're not talking about the elite of freshmen, I'm kind of pivoting off those guys because we've seen it the past couple years. A lot of those guys have not panned out where we thought they were. You were taking a Mookie Cooper at the top of the second round. You were taking all these other guys early, and they're not panning out. Like, as much as I love Devon Brown, Luther Burton, Keon Grace, there's a chance that one or two of those guys don't pan out, and they're going top of the first round. Now, some of that is definitely because of us. We have become one of the, premier information places for this kind of league that people are taking what we're giving them and they're probably going exactly off what we're telling them to do. I'm kind of fine pivoting and taking these college producers and trying to win on the college side with those guys. And then if I want to trade for a freshman guy later, do that after a year or two of them possibly underperforming. Like JoJo Earl's a guy who was going super early last year, right? I think in most of the ones I was in, he was late first, early second. He's a guy I think you could probably trade for mid-season this year for a lot cheaper than what he went for because there's a chance he doesn't do anything early on.
Are you talking about freshman value or startup value?
Freshman value.
I think his startup value is very consistent with what it was last year, actually, weirdly.
I mean, that may be true, but I feel like you'll be able, if he goes out there, like I know you've talked about it. We talked about it here, like Bill O'Brien, right? Not great with slot wide receivers in any offense he's ever coached. Penn State, Houston Texans, and so far at Alabama. If he goes out there and has 3 or 4, 5, 6 like really bad weeks, do you really think it would be crazy if someone tries to pivot off of him because of his name value? And then it wouldn't be crazy if he goes out there next year and absolutely blows up. Where you could have pivoted and taken and his name's just top of my head, but anybody else, like a Colin Schlee, who we've talked about, could possibly be a really high-end CFF producer, also has 3 years of eligibility. Like, I've just learned that the first 2 years I did this, I was all in on freshmen, just taking them. Now we obviously have a freshman guy, which I think is we did a really good job on it. We dove really deep into that stuff. In the past, that wasn't available, so it wasn't just me. I know many people were like, all right, 24/7 sports. All right, let's see who's next on this list that hasn't been taken, all the way down and just scrolling and grabbing those guys. And those guys don't pan out for you when you could have been taking these high-end CFF producers. That's kind of the biggest thing I've taken away is I'm leaning more on those guys now this past year in my drafts than I have been on the freshmen. I'll take those top guys that I truly believe are elite, and I do agree with what Austin said. Like, I'm okay missing on Devon Brown, Keon Grace, Luther Burton, whatever. If they don't pan out, I'm okay missing on those guys because I truly believe they're going to be great. But then outside of that, I don't know that I'm taking any of these, a Taven Jackson, a Shaz Preston. Like, I think I might just take a CFF guy who I know is going to produce for me the next 2 years and figure out replacing my depth or NFL guys later on down the line if those guys do hit and I didn't take them in the freshman draft.
I mean, I think we know that we play this game for fun, but I think I would be doing a disservice if I didn't state, how much fun it is once the games start on Saturday or on Thursday night or whenever, Maxing starts. Is just because we're in these leagues, we kind of know a piece of every single 130 rosters, and that makes every game just a little bit more interesting. That makes every, report a little bit more interesting. It makes spring games a little bit more interesting, especially for this summertime where, I'm trying to catch up on information that I didn't get through the spring. So, I mean, yeah, lessons that we've learned and you can take away how to be better with the drafts and how to be better at scouting players, what have you. But I just think that there's something to be said about how much fun campus to Canton leagues make both Saturday and Sunday. And if you're listening to us and you haven't taken the dive into C2C, I would really encourage you to start, because you might, let's say you don't know, 130 teams at the FBS level. Who cares? You will after one season. You'll feel better at it after 2 seasons, after 3 seasons. Yeah, I still, struggle with it. I tell Austin all the time. He's making up names. But it's just so much fun to, almost not be able to master something. Feels facing the uncertainty, facing the challenge every single season is really, really fun. Speaking of challenges, we've given ourselves one for tonight. So let me set this up here. What we're doing is we are listing over the next 2 episodes. Is that what we decided? Over the next 2 episodes, we're going to give you what we project the 2023 rankings to be. So after this season, after Bijan Robinson leaves and CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, what do the rankings look like at the start of next season? So we got to consider, kids in high school right now who are juniors who haven't even started their season. Just going to look down the road, see what 23 rankings are going to be like in the top 10. So tonight we're going to start with 6 through 10. And I was thinking, I don't know if it's more interesting to start with 6 through 10 or 1 through 5, because 1 through 5 are going to be names that people have heard. And 6 through 10, to me, that's where the suspense is, because it's going to be new names that aren't in that range yet. I mean, Evan Stewart is going to be a top 5 receiver. Xavier Worthy, Marvin Harrison Jr. We know those names are going to be there in the top 5. So does anybody want to pivot to talk about the top 5? Or because we said we were going to go 6 through 10 tonight.
I mean, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I didn't realize we were doing tight ends because that's just such a crapshoot. So
I didn't do tight ends.
I saw Austin did, so I'm quickly putting mine together right now, but I'm good everywhere else to go 1 through 10. I've got all 10 of mine done. So
we can talk tight ends. I didn't do tight ends because it was hard enough getting through the wide receivers, running backs, and quarterbacks. So I didn't do tight ends, and Austin sitting here shaking his head in disgust at us not doing our homework.
Well, I mean, Austin's already like 200 players deep into the 2024 class.
Right.
So
exactly. Right.
Some of us have kids we have to take care of, so it's
exactly
more difficult.
Well, when you can barely take care of yourself, kids just seems a little far-fetched. So at this point,
I mean, I can barely take care of myself, and there's unfortunately 2 kids relying on me. So,
Matthew, I think that the more interesting information and the more interesting tease is hearing 6 through 10.
Yeah, I mean, we
need all the help we can get to get the audience. So I feel like if we talk about 1 through 5 tonight and then talk about 6 through 10, they might come back and to listen to 6 through 10 next week. Can we do that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine. I'm fine either way.
Who should start? Let's start with the quarterback position, and I will go ahead and start. And this is why I kind of like doing 1 through 5, because there's very little suspense here. Number 1, I got Caleb Williams. I mean, Caleb Williams is like my number 2 or 3 quarterback now after Bryce Young and CJ Stroud leave. I think he's going to move up to number 1. He's there in that Lincoln Riley system. Excellent rusher, aggressive mentality, throwing the ball downfield. So he's number 1. I think that he's probably going to be number 1 for all of us. Number 2, I've got Anthony Richardson, because I think that he is probably going to, and Austin's smirking, I think that he's going to come back next year. I think that he will have a good season this year. And I kind of hedged. I'm like, But I think that to confirm that, hey, I'm a top 10 player, I think that Anthony Richardson is going to come back next year, barring, some injury or something like that, where if he takes a lot of pounding this year around the goal line and his body's getting beat up, maybe he comes out. But I think we see Anthony Richardson for 1 more season, because again, he's not even been a full-time starter to date. So he'll be more successful if he has 2 seasons as a starter under his belt. Number 3, I've got Devon Brown. I just think that Devon Brown is an excellent player. I think that he's going to beat out Kyle McCord for that job next year. And, the starting quarterback at Ohio State is always someone that needs to be considered in the top 5, 10-ish. And I would bet that, both of us, or all 3 of us, have Devon Brown in the top 5. Number 4, I've got Quinn Ewers. I think I've been, one of the harshest critics of Quinn Ewers. It's not even really criticism. It's just questioning, is this guy is this guy what everyone believes that he is? But if he's starting for Steve Sarkisian, I mean, just think about what Hudson Card and Casey Thompson did together last year. If Quinn Ewers can replicate that, then he's going to be valued highly. He already is the number 1 quarterback for some people out there. And number 5, I've got Arch Manning. And so with the caveat, if he goes to Texas, if Arch Manning ends up at Georgia, it's no thank you. No thank you if he goes to Georgia. But if he ends up at Texas in that Steve Sarkisian system with the way that they're recruiting skill positions, with the talent that's there already in Texas that they're going to be able to get there when you Manning brother, then you give me Arch Manning at Texas. Hopefully we'll get, some sort of commitment here soon so we can talk about that. But that is my top 5. I really want to go in through 6 through 10 because I have one. So here's a tease. I have one freshman in my 6 through 10. I have one freshman, so a class of 2023 player in my 6 through 10. All right, Austin or Matt, one of you guys go with your 1 through 5 at the quarterback position.
Me? Okay. Buckle up, boys. This is going to be a lot different than what Felix just said. And I have 2 altogether. 2023 freshmen, 1 in the top 5, which you're about to hear, and 1 in the top 10. Number 1 for me is Quinn Ewers. He's currently number 1 in my C2C ranks. Why would that change now? Like, I'm not going to change that. He's going to play this year. We all know I don't need to beat a dead horse here. Like, we know my feelings on Quinn Ewers. In my opinion, he's going to be great. At 2, I reluctantly put Caleb Williams. I mean, he's going to be in Lincoln Riley's offense, which is going to be successful. I still have questions about him developing as a passer, but I mean, again, Lincoln Riley got Jalen Hurts, second-round draft capital. It's not a stretch at all to say Caleb Williams is better than Jalen Hurts. So realistically, even though I said whatever that was in our hot take episode that he wouldn't get first-round draft capital, I feel like that's fairly unlikely that he won't, especially with Jalen Hurts getting drafted where he did in the second round. 3 for me, it's Kyle McCord. I expect him to beat out Devon Brown, and once he does, Felix just mentioned it.
You've got to be kidding me.
Felix just mentioned it. The Ohio State. Where's that Michael from what is it? The Last Dance. I mean, if he wins out that job, which I expect him to, the Ohio State quarterback matters. At which point, he's going to be valued very highly. So I have him at 3. At 4, I still have Drew Aller. I still believe in him, still have a lot of faith in him. I think he's going to be the starter at Penn State next season and should be very good for them. 5 is Malachi Nelson. I know that you're going to have to wait a year with him sitting behind Caleb Williams, but in my opinion, he is already a whole level above Caleb Williams. I think once he gets on the field, he is going to absolutely smash at USC and that offense. And always, Sal, always.
Matt, people aren't paying attention to the next classes like we are. So just describe who Malachi Nelson is and what he looks like as a player.
I think he's got the strongest arm in the class. Big kid, really smooth throwing motion. You don't think so? Interesting. Well, I probably am not as deep into I don't think I am as deep into the quarterbacks as you are, Austin. For those of you setting the scene here, we haven't done that well. Setting the scene for anybody not listening or watching, I'm sorry. Austin was shaking his head no. I think he's my number 1 by far. I'll just give a little teaser. Arch is not in my top 10. He is not one of my top 3 quarterbacks in the 2023.
Well, Arch Manning offers almost nothing with his legs. And Nelson does. Oh.
Austin's unmuting himself to drop some knowledge.
What? Arch Manning is a much more accomplished runner than Malachi Nelson is.
Is he?
Yeah, he runs like an idiot. He's going to get hurt, but yes, he's a much more accomplished runner than Malachi Nelson is.
Okay. All right.
Do you remember how Matt Corral ran last year and got basically effed up his shoulder? That's how Arch Manning runs. Yes.
But I think what Felix is saying, he's not going to be considered I don't think he's considered a dual threat quarterback. I wouldn't consider him that.
I would consider him more of a dual threat than Malachi Nelson. I know it's like a totally different.
Well, I'm not talking. I don't think we're not talking about that. We're talking about Arch Manning's rushing upside.
That's one of the reasons why I think that he needs to go to Texas is because Steve Sarkisian had success with pocket quarterbacks, Tua Tagovailoa, Mac Jones, and so that's kind of why I think that he's a match for Sarkisian. So anyway, go ahead, Matt.
But yeah, I mean, I in my opinion, I'm almost positive he's Austin's number 1 as well. I just think he's going to be a rock. He's going to be, I guess the way I would put it for those of you who haven't had a chance to look at it but know everything we've talked about the freshman, I feel like he's going to be our Devon Brown next year. Is like this guy we all expect really just can't miss. And especially going to Lincoln Riley and that offense. So that's why he comes in at my number 5. And again, You can compare him to Devon Brown, the fact that I know Felix does, Austin. Many people think Devon Brown will be the starter next year at Ohio State. They're not going to be able to over recruit Malachi Nelson. He's going to be starter once Caleb Williams goes to the NFL next year. And again, being paired with Lincoln Riley, one of the best offensive minds in the game, they're going to put up some really fun numbers, and it's going to be a very fun offense to watch in 2024 when he takes over as a starter.
Go ahead, Austin. Give us your top.
All right.
1 through 5.
So I have. It's so close for me between these two players. It's literally a razor thin edge between Caleb Williams and Quinn Ewers. Give me Williams at 1 and Ewers at 2, but it's one of those things where if I have a couple startups next year and like maybe Trayvion's probably gone and they're probably like the consensus 2-3, depending on what, like if I have, I'll probably have like 2 of this guy and I'll take 2 of this one. Like I think they're very, very close. Caleb Williams and Quinn Ewers, I think, yeah, they're just the obvious. They should be the obvious 1 and 2 answer here. Anthony Richardson is a horrible answer because either he blew it up this year and he went to the NFL or he was garbage and he doesn't belong in your top 50. That's completely beside the point. Devon Brown's third for me.
That's offensive.
Devon Brown. There's some game theory here, Felix. There's some game theory because there were a couple guys that I played around putting, and actually the game theory would have been a lot more fun on the back end, where you kind of have to decide like who's like Phil Jerkovic that's gonna make like a run, or like Grayson McCall, or like like one of the Hendon Hooker. Devon Brown third for me. I'm still working under the assumption that he gets the job next year, although I think it will be an all offseason long battle with Kyle McCord for that job. Malachi Nelson is fourth for me. He's probably the most accurate high school quarterback I've ever watched in my life. Just like crazy accurate, very good arm talent. He can move around. Like he's not a statue. 6'3", like 180-ish or 185-ish. So he just needs to get a little bit bigger, bulk up, but he looks like he has the frame to do that. And he's going to USC, which I think is a really good offense for him because I think it's kind of like quick read, like get the ball out of your hand, but then also be able to push the ball downfield effectively. And I think those are things that he's just really, really strong at. And then I have Jackson Dart as number 5. I didn't feel great putting him there, but I didn't after 4, like this year, it's after 5. I feel really good about, or I feel really bad about everything else after it. It's after 4 for next year. If you look at it, assuming that kind of the guys that are eligible go, I think you could have thrown a number of different names in here, but give me Dart. I'm really worried about him, but I still think Ole Miss for a year, like with Lane Kiffin, I think he has tools. He's mobile enough. He's got some weapons there now. And these are C2C rankings. So, I think you need to factor that in, that he might score some points. So I have him at 5, but again, I don't feel really that good about it.
I mean, he made my top 10. There's 2 guys in my top 10. I actually like 3 of the guys in 6 through 10. It's just the other 2 I was kind of, and Dart's one of those where I kind of agree with you. It's kind of like, I can't leave him out of my top 10, so I put him in there because I do expect him to be good, and I think he's better than Corral, which likely gets him some decent draft capital.
One thing that should be said about the 2022 and the 2023 quarterback class. So Arch Manning, Malachi Nelson, Nico Iamaleava, those are all top 6 players in the class overall, regardless of position. Whereas last season, Drew Aller was the only top 5-ish quarterback in the class. So, 24/7 is considering this quarterback class to be at the top of the class overall. I don't know if we would say elite, but those are all 5-star guys. So something to consider with those 3 quarterbacks. And nobody said Nico. So maybe we'll hear him.
There are 5-star quarterbacks in the class, which is just ridiculous. And there are a bunch more that I think are really good as well. It's bonkers class. And 2024 looks really strong as well. It's honestly really interesting to see how the whole thing is going to shift over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how deep Austin would go. So I've graded out 16 quarterbacks right now. I love my top 10. Like, I'd be happy getting any of those guys. I think for me, it tiers at like 7 is where, and man, I feel like that's a massive tier for tier 1 typically. Like, I think last year we had, realistically, it was 2. It was Aller and Brown. We had Quinn Ewers in there. because him obviously reclassifying, but there's like 7 right now tier 1 quarterbacks for me, and we still have an entire senior season for these guys to go, which is, and we could, not that I'd put him in there, but there's other guys like CJ Carr who could reclassify as well. Like there's a lot of things that could be coming this year. It's going to be a lot of fun.
CJ Carr is not good. So
I agree with you. I'm just saying, but if he,
sorry, Notre Dame fans,
if he reclassifies, he's gonna probably be put up there for some people. He will be considered a top quarterback. Whether it's going to be based on name alone, we'll see.
Let's move here to the running back. Austin, I'll let you go first. 1 through 5 at the running back position. I think that we'll have more familiar names and fewer freshmen because it doesn't seem like the 2023 freshman running back class is particularly strong. So give me your 1 through 5.
Not particularly strong is a very nice way to put it. It's a doo-doo. Number 1's Travion. I think with Bijan gone, there's literally zero argument. He would have to get run over by a bus on campus and be walking around with a back brace like what's her name, Regina George from Mean Girls. I mean,
he'd still be RB1.
I don't see any scenario where he's not the number 1 guy in the class. Or the number 1 guy in college even. Number 2, this is a pretty tough one. I think you can go back and forth. I'm going to put Singleton there just because I have Singleton rated above Braylon Allen right now. I think, this is still presuming that he kind of gets the large amount of the work there at Penn State. He's just a good athlete. I think he's more fluid than number 3 Braylon Allen, who's kind of, a beefier. I call him kind of a runway running back because I think he really will struggle in tight spaces, but if you can kind of get him where he doesn't really have to slow down at the line of scrimmage, Braylon Allen, I think he can be a very good player. Number 4 and number 5 were very, very close for me. It's Jaden Blue and Branson Robinson, 2 freshmen that I think won't do a ton this year, but I think they'll both have that freshman moment where you're like, there it is. Because both those teams will be in some games that are blowouts. We will see Jaden Blue and Branson Robinson this year. They won't start or get 100 touches, but we will see both of them.
Circling back to Singleton, I didn't know what to make of the fact that he got the very first carry in the spring game, which was a goal line carry. They took him out and put Kevon Lee in for the rest of the first quarter and played. I'm like, okay, so that meant, Nick Singleton is the starter and they're saving him. But then they put Nick Singleton in with the 2s and Christian Velu handing him the ball. So that kind of blew I have no idea what to make about what his role is going to be early in the season. But, I mean, we think Nick Singleton is going to be the starter there. But it was just interesting how they used him. I do have Travion number 1, Braylon Allen number 2, Nick Singleton number 3. And here's why I don't have Branson Robinson or Jaden Blue in my top 5 here is because I don't think that we see them this year. I think that we see my number 4 player more than we see either of those 2, and that's Jabarian Miller. Jabarian Miller, he got a lot of run in the spring game. He is he can catch the ball, he can run the ball, and he already has the body. So I think I've seen, he belongs on the field, and I think that he will have some time where he's spelling Jahmyr Gibbs, maybe him and Trey Sanders. So that's why I have Jabarian Miller at number 4 here. Again, this is a projection. I just don't think that we see enough of Robinson and Blue this year. And then number 5, I got Will Shipley. Will Shipley's got to do it this year. I mean, he might be the best player on that offense and one of the more athletic running backs and can catch the ball himself. I mean, Shipley could have, 50 catches this year. I mean, he should if they're using him correctly. So I got Will Shipley at number 5. But this is hard. I mean, I was like, this is not as easy as you would think because you're projecting what's going to happen in this season. So, Matthew, why don't you give us – everyone has a smirk on their face.
I thought it was
everyone is
easy,
listening
but...
to and has a smirk on their face.
I mean, we're smirking because you said Jamarion Miller. Jahmyr Gibbs, Trey Sanders, Jace McClellan. I feel like if Miller gets in, it's going to be in blowout situations, just like Austin mentioned, Branson Robinson or Jaden Blue would. So, tomato, right? I'll tell you this: I have one of either Branson Robinson or Jabarian Miller in my top 10, and just, teaser, it's not Jabarian Miller. So anyways, number 1, Travion Henderson. Number 2 for me is Nicholas Singleton. To kind of help you understand this a little bit, Felix, I know this is going to hit a little home, and I apologize about this. I'm not trying to upset you this late at night, but I feel like this is going to end up being a Mayan Williams, Travion Henderson thing, where he starts the beginning of the year, and then by like game 2, Nicholas Singleton is just completely gone and taking this job, and it doesn't matter.
I'm not anymore. A Kayvon Lee fan, so it's not a Mayan Williams.
No, it's more of the Mayan Williams. That's where I feel like it was going to hit you. 3 for me is Jadon Blue, because I agree with Austin. He was not great in that spring game, but he had one run, in my opinion, that you kind of saw a flash. And again, this is coming from a dude who had not played football in an entire year. I do think we will see him at times this year, and he will show us how special he can be. I don't care. I will be honest. Ruben Owens did make my top 10. I do think he is good. He's not better than Jadon Blue, in my opinion.
He's not going to Texas either, for the record.
Well, if he does, I don't think he's better than Jadon Blue, and I do think Blue takes over that backfield. Like, I like Brooks. I don't think anybody's there is going to step in front of Jadon Blue. Just my opinion. 4 for me is Will Shipley. I agree with what Felix said. Like, he's going to be Clemson's offense this year. I think he's going to have a really good season this year. Also a decent pass catcher. Like, I think he's going to be just fine. And then 5 for me is Braylon Allen. And I mean, I'm the lowest on him. I have been for a while. Again, I think Austin put it perfectly. Like, I've questioned his vision for a long time. Wisconsin's going to be able to open up holes for him. He's going to be able to get going. But again, I think betting on a running back that size is just not smart. We have not seen it ever work out outside of Derrick Henry and he played for the Giants. Now I cannot remember what his name is. Brandon Jacobs. There's just a lot of stuff that needs to improve with Braylon Allen. It could happen this year, so that's why I'm putting him in my top 5. He would be down closer to 10. I think he gets a little bit better this year, but I'm a little bit hesitant to put him in the top 3, where I think there's a little bit of a tier separation for me.
The condescension is just dripping off of everyone's faces as these rankings are read. Let's go to wide receiver here, and I'll start this time. I don't think that there's a surprise here, but I'm not looking at faces. So let's see. I got Xavier Worthy, number 1, Marvin Harrison Jr., number 2, I have Lorenzo Styles, number 3, because I was looking at I was like, I can't. Like, who else would it be? There's a huge tier of players that are leaving this year in the 2023 class of wide receivers. And I look around, it's like Lorenzo Styles is left. I mean, so I've got him number 3. I've got Evan Stewart number 4, and I've got Luther Burden number 5.
It's interesting.
All right, Matthew.
Oh, man. Marvin Harrison Jr. is one for me. He's going to go out and have a really good season this year. And again, whether it's Kyle McCord or Devon Brown paired in that Ohio State offense, he's going to be the one in his final season. 2 for me is Luther Burden. I expect him to go out and absolutely smash this year, and I expect him to continue to be the best wide receiver in his class. Already looked incredible in that spring game. I think he's going to be the main guy on that offense. 3 for me is Mecca, because I expect him to also go out there and have a really good season behind Marvin Harrison in that offense. 4 for me is Xavier Worthy. It's just really the size. Like, I have no questions about him as a wide receiver. I want to see him bulk up just a little bit more. Outside of that, he's really great. But I think with what Mecca and Luther and Marvin Harrison have size-wise puts him just a tad bit ahead of me. And then 5 for me is Keon Grace. Like, I think you're not going to get much out of him this year. I just pray to God. Actually, I don't really care if he becomes a year 1-0 because I feel like I can buy cheap on him now since that's become like propaganda. And if he becomes a year 1-0, everybody's just going to like possibly cut him at this point since that becomes such a mainstream thing. Like, if he's year 1-0 this year, I think he'll go out there next year and he'll be the 3rd guy in this offense and have a really good season. And 2 years in a row again, whether it's Kyle McCord and then Dylan Raiola or Devon Brown for 2 years, he's going to absolutely smash. He's going to have a great offense around him and a great quarterback. So he came in for 5 for me. I do like Lorenzo Styles. My biggest fear is Buckner or Buchner, however you say his name. I don't know how great he's going to be as a passer getting Lorenzo the ball. So he made my top 10, but not my top 5.
Matt, do you know if any of the Ohio State wide receivers in the NFL were zeros while they were there?
Well, see, I don't know.
The answer is no.
Were they?
If he's a 0, do not go buy him. It doesn't
I
matter.
will.
If he's
I'll-
a zero,
I'll
do
buy
not
him.
go buy him. That is
I'll still buy him.
awful. That is awful. Don't do that.
Austin asked you a question
that's-
that he knew the answer to already.
Well, of course. Again, I don't. Is it different? Yours is different than Moxley's, though, right? Did JSN fall in that with Moxley's, or is it because he didn't cross? He crossed what, 2 of those thresholds his freshman season?
You only have to cross one, and he crossed
one,
multiple.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Don't do that. Yeah, I think that wide receiver room actually isn't that deep, in my opinion. Like, it's the top 3, and then like who's the 4th? Fleming. What? Cameron Babb, who's blown out his knee 4 times.
Probably going to
like
be Ballard over Fleming.
Ballard, yeah. Like it's really not very. It's not actually that deep of a room. If they're going to do like the hockey style, like, shifts that they've done over the past couple years, I can't see how he doesn't in some blowout.
Oh, he'll
catch. I have like 150 combined yards from Kyle McCord and Devon Brown in blowouts, because like it's just
he'll be fine. We saw that out of Marvin Harrison and Mecca this year when they were blowing out, and they throw Kyle McCord out there and like, here you go. Like, it's gonna happen. If you've seen their schedule, I think they play a team I didn't even realize was a college football team. I think in like week 3, we'll see Keon Gray's pass most of his. No, I wish it was Penn State. They're later on. They're another team I didn't realize were still, qualified as a college football team. They, I forgot what I was saying now. No, I feel like he'll pass most of those year 1-0 things in one game. With whether it's going to be Kyle McCord or Devon Brown, so he'll be fine.
Which is like 5 receptions, 100 yards, like a handful of punt returns. Like they're not big thresholds at all for anybody not familiar with them.
Which is gonna be interesting. We're already talking about it, so might as well keep doing it. Caleb Burton doing some special teams work. He may end up not being a year 1-0, especially if he gets some of those punt returns and whatnot. But anyways, Austin, go ahead. Your turn.
Interesting. Felix, who was your number 4? I'm making a list here just for reference.
Evan Stewart.
Okay.
I feel like I was the highest on him. He actually didn't make my top 10. I feel like maybe I left him out. I went other freshmen over him.
He's number 10 for me.
Interesting.
There's your preview for next week, folks. Evan
now I feel bad because like I was all about him, and he didn't make my top 10. Oh, one guy jumped him, and it's 100% because of Corey. So if you guys are in our Slack, you probably know who that is now, based on the thing he put in there today.
All right. So my 5, I have Worthy 1, but I feel like you could take him or Marvin Harrison and be pretty happy about it. I think they'll both be different archetypes, but both highly sought after players over the next 2 years. Luther Burden, number 3. It's hard to predict that. I think he does lead Mizzou in receiving this year. How much is that? There's a very realistic chance that he is the Quentin Johnson of his class, through 2 years. Quentin Johnson has great, offense, specific numbers, but bulk wise, they are crap because his team can't pass at all. So unless they get a quarterback in there, we might have kind of, you might be able to buy a Luther Burden cheaper than maybe you should over the next couple of years. Can
I interest you in some Sam Horn?
Who's either going to play baseball or
I'm
be
just
bad.
messing with you because you don't like him. That's why I asked.
I do not like him. Egbuka 4. I think he's pretty comparable to Bird. I think they're kind of similar players, but I just think Burden's slightly better, slightly higher ceiling. And then 5. No, you guys had a 2023 freshman in your top 5, huh?
So I haven't looked at any of the wide receivers. So I forgot to mention that at the beginning. I've only looked at quarterbacks, and I think I'm through 6 running backs right now. We put together. I don't know if anybody knows this. We put together this Devy guide, and it ate up a lot of my time the past 2 months. So I literally took 2 weeks off where I was like, I'm not doing shit except for podcast, and I'm gonna watch Stranger Things, The Boys. I'm gonna play some MLB The Show, get my mind right, and then next week is full into the 2023 class.
So yeah, my number 5 is Makai Lemon, who's my top wide receiver in next year's class. He's listed as I think he's listed as an athlete. I don't think he's listed as a wide receiver because he plays DB as well, but he's going to play wide receiver. He's going to go to USC. He's already committed there. That's what they're recruiting him as. And really in that wide receiver room, Jordan Addison transferred there. He's presumably going to be gone after this year. He's going to get drafted in the first round of the NFL draft. And then it's Mario Williams. And then we just have a shit ton of questions about the rest of that wide receiver room. Gary Bryant could be good. He could be at best, the 3rd wide receiver on the team. CJ Williams could be good, but it might take him a year or 2 to develop there. And I think Lemon who, is over 6 feet tall. Like he has like almost perfect size, like for the modern at the NFL, like that 6 foot to 6'2" kind of range, like that 190 to 200 range. I think he is basically a kind of I think he's a slightly better version of like what Agbuka and Burton are. Like where he could probably play slot if you wanted him to, but I think he can also win consistently on the boundary. Huge catch radius, really good athlete, can win after the catch, can win downfield. Like I think we're going to be talking about this kid a lot over the next few years. He's my top wide receiver next year's freshman class through 3 years. I doubt that's going to change. I'll have him in my top 5. But I'm also aggressive ranking freshman, so you know me.
I think we're going to call this episode Smirks and Side Eyes, with regard to at least me reading my rankings. I'm hurt. I am hurt. What else?
Well, you didn't say think outside the box, or else maybe mine would have looked more like yours. But God, I did do tight end. I don't know if you guys apparently don't.
I have my top 5. I have my top 5.
Go ahead. You guys go ahead. I didn't do tight end.
Do you want to go first or me? I feel like I literally just went and pulled my C2C ranks. It was like these are the top 5
I'm interested to hear this actually.
I've got I cannot go quite the spiciest take Austin has had on this show in over years. Brock Bowers tight end, Michael Trigg tight end 1. I can't do it. Bowers 1 for me. Trigg 2. I've got Delp 3, Jatavian Sanders 4, and then Jaleel Skinner 5. And again, I just literally went straight from like my C2C tight end ranks and went up. I don't think there's probably going to be a freshman in Austin's. I could be wrong. But for me, it's just so hard to project what these guys like. The best I feel about realistically is Trigg, because he already has the size, and Delp, to be honest, are really the only 2 that I absolutely love that I think are solidified.
Yeah. My 5 is not that much different than yours, and the guys that aren't in mine are in my top 10. So it's not like they're off by that much of a difference. So I have Trigg number 1. I think he's going to be a tight end 1 for college fantasy this year. I think he's he's already over 240 pounds. We love that. He's 6'4". He's slightly short. Okay. He's not 6'6". Whatever. Neither is Brock Bowers. So Bowers number 2 in his 3rd year there at Georgia. Delp number 3, another Georgia kid there. I have Medier 4. I still think Chris has been giving me some crap lately. Josh Wiley, the senior tight end there, since he is still on the roster. Josh Wiley is like 230 pounds soaking wet. I think new quarterback. I think, slightly new system with a new offensive coordinator. Medier is like 6'5", 252. He's a much better athlete than Wiley. That's all we care about the tight end position. How much did Noah Fant do in college his first couple years? Because he was stuck there with somebody else. It doesn't really matter for college tight ends. Medier is just this big athletic block of marble. So I'm going to bet on that being, a guy that I really, really want. And the number 5 is Elijah Arroyo. A guy that I think he takes that job there. And it's the same place Skinner is. I think he's a better player than Skinner. Skinner's not really a tight end, which is going to be the issue. And that's kind of the thing about the tight end position now. Like a lot of these guys aren't really tight ends. Felix, you're muted. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
I said he's a power forward. That's what he is.
Yeah, Skinner. He's so people want to compare him to Kyle Pitts, and he's like, he has to gain like 35, 40 pounds to weigh as much as Kyle Pitts. Like, I don't see it happening. I just don't really get like actual like NFL upside tight end vibes with him. Skinner barely made my top 10. I just think Arroyo is a better player. I'll take Arroyo every day over him. It's unfortunate for Skinner too, because I think if you could unleash him and just kind of let him figure things out, then maybe he gets there. But like, I just don't. He doesn't get that opportunity for a couple years now, so I don't know.
Running back, wide receivers, tight ends, quarterbacks. You've got a preview of our silly 2023 rankings without obviously knowing what is going to happen in 2022. Check out the website, campus2canton.com. There's always something going on there. Check out the podcast feed and the YouTube page. All right. Sorry, Kirk Herbstreit. We'll get you next time. Peace. I got to send this show link 5429. I got to send this to Mike. Mike might be monologuing his after show.
You heading out?
I just don't feel like I want to relax.
Don't blame you.
Let's see here.
We could chat Devy Debate Listener League. Maybe we should have given that last spot to Mike.
Yeah.
Whoops. We're 6 rounds through our supplemental draft. Probably most of the people listening to this at this point are in the league, C2C league. Does anybody have any?
Hold on.
Thoughts?
Austin wants to talk about this league because he had 4 first-round draft picks. He had 5 first-round draft picks. So
he had like 13 of the first 16 picks. So
yeah,
not quite that bad, but yes, it was a lot. Do you want me to apologize?
Go ahead, finish whatever.
I was just asking. Are there any picks that you thought were like odd or really really good or steals or?
Man, I'm gonna be honest. I haven't looked at any. Like
I haven't looked either because there's no. It's a free league, so.
Like with I feel like as I just got the tag, I'm back on the clock. Like I've been so busy. I literally just took Gavin Sawchuk with my last pick because I just didn't want to go look for anybody else at the moment. I was like, just give me the
Somebody
guy
took Robert Thomas in front of me, and I was really upset about it. I needed
saving you from yourself.
Oh, what's up, guys?
What's up, Mike?
What's up?
How's it going? I heard Felix pretty much call me like one of his kids. He's like, I don't want the headache of me coming on. You're like, I don't want to deal with Mike.
No, he said he's hopping off. You're gonna be by yourself.
Yeah, he said he wants to relax. Yeah.
Yeah, I can be relaxing.
My relaxing is what I'm gonna do after this. After I get off this microphone, I'll tell you that much. So,
I do have some news for the listeners, though. Me and Corey are back on for starting the Devy show. We talked about it today, so we'll be doing that. He's thank you for the class.
Top secret. That's top secret. We can't let the people know that.
Well, this was a pretty good Devy show, so I was ready to come on to talk slander about the college debate, but this is a pretty good Devy.
I was going to say, Mike, I'm sure you're happy that we're going to have a true Devy show on the feed now.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just college football debate.
Exactly.
You guys are going to have so much fun talking about Bryce Young and, Michael Mayer for fucking 6 months. and Keyshawn Butte versus Jackson Smith and Jigba.
So when we first talked about it before the Devy guide started rolling off, I had I think 25 outlines for like show sheets for us to do during the year.
Holy crap!
And to just rinse and repeat. The thing is that I saved that through Slack. I didn't know Slack was going to delete that shit after like a month. So I'm very upset about that, but I'm sure I'll remember most of it. I'm going to get started on those. But yeah.
So, Mike, I think that you could, I mean, it's fine doing a show with Corey, but I think that you could solo host a show. I really do.
Okay, so I do that. I tried that with my old podcast. One, my mouth gets dry really fast. Two, I like forget to breathe sometimes. All right. and then in the middle of the show, I'll just be like, it's just weird.
It's just reps, man. It's just reps. I will produce you. So you won't be by yourself, but you'll be the main one talking on the mic.
I've always said solo potting is so impressive. Like I give mad kudos to Brandon Lejeune, who does every single one of his. Well, now he's doing it with Jason Dorenzo from Devy Watch, but like for the first 100 episodes or whatever, he did it by himself, and that was just like super. Fill 50 minutes of space by yourself. I mean, I don't think I could do it consistently.
Yeah, and you're just kind of talking to yourself too. You get in your own head after I think like 20 minutes. You're like, I'm just talking to myself in a room by myself. Hope no one's watching me through the window.
Luke in the audience wants to talk about Tavian Rudolph.
There's nothing to talk about. He's G5.
I haven't listened to that to your newest video yet, Felix. But you get the name wrong again?
No, I don't think so. I think I laughed when I said it. But listen, people know who I'm talking about. If I just say the school and the name.
Hands down the funniest thing that's happened on any of our shows ever.
I don't that is not even in the top 5 of the funny things.
That was up there. And then, honestly, one of my favorites, too, was from the morning show when he just decided he was coming on 5 minutes before the show. He, messed up all of our stuff. And then, as we were talking about the guys we wanted that week, he, started taking all of our players and just watching you get pissed off. Shut up! Just yelling into the mic was just amazing.
I didn't look at the show sheet. There's no preparation. I didn't know who you guys were taking.
It was just so funny. Listen, because you started, you named, I think, Mox's guy and Colin's guy. Both of them were like, what the hell? And then you named Austin's guy, and just watching him just, start yelling it was so good.
First, they came for Colin's guys, and I didn't speak out because Colin's guy was probably bad. And then they came for Chris's guy. I didn't speak out because it wasn't me. But then he came for my guy. It's the old poem. So what's up, Mike?
Nothing much. I've been actually diving into the 2024 class, which makes me feel good that I'm not too far behind because everyone's behind because of the Devy guide. And as well, the listeners, I have access to Austin's notes, and I really like that. I love that me and Austin don't like the same thing in a player. Because I read some of your notes on some players. I read some of the notes on DeAndre Moore, the Louisville committed wide receiver 9, I believe. I love him, and I looked at your notes, and we have the same exact notes, but our grades are very different. Because I loved him because I thought I saw a lot of shades of Khalil Shakir there, who just went in the 5th, so that's not really a positive. But I love that. I love that solid game.
He's a good player. I mean, I think it's a really good wide receiver class overall. I mean, right now I've graded out 20-ish kids, and I have 12 in my tier 1 or tier 2, which is a lot.
I'm at 20 as well. Or maybe 19, 18.
And it's really tough. A lot of the the top tier 2 guys, I think are really close. Brandon Ennis, I think is really good, and he's my wide receiver 8.
I've seen these highlights from Jaden Greathouse, and he's receiver 20 something in the class.
Yeah,
he's my
Innis is my wide receiver 1 right now. I really like Innis's game a lot.
I mean, it's not surprising, though, what you said about Greathouse. I feel like we were really high on a bunch of guys that 24/7 Sports on 3 were not high on at all. I mean TJ Allen was one.
What was Adam Randall in the composite? 16 or something. He wasn't that high.
True. And we had him wide receiver 3 or 4.
Are you guys worried about Greathouse's athletics though? I do have access to Matt, big wide receiver guys model, so I have all of his stuff too. And Greathouse only runs 19.8 miles per hour, and 20.5 was the threshold they outlined for us.
I'm not that worried about it because I think he needs to lose some weight. I think if he just gets in better shape, I think a lot of that issue will clear itself up.
It is problematic though because I feel like our estimates are slightly higher than what we see from other people who provide the same data. So if he's at 19 point whatever, to me that means he's actually slower than that. But and big wide receiver guys watching, I mean, you can correct me on that. 20.5 is not threshold.
Oh man,
I think it's 19.8 or something.
I thought 20.5 was after that it was only one guy was successful after that. And I think it was
I feel like big wide receiver guy is just gonna butt his way, force.
We should just send him the link.
20.5 is not the threshold, is what he said.
He's gonna come on here like Kool-Aid man, just popping the wall. I'm waiting for him to correct me in the chat.
Because I think it's Isaiah Hodgins barely gets caught up in the data set, and I don't think he hits 20.
I think that was the one outlier, if I remember the episode right.
19 or 19 and a half.
19.5. Yeah. Okay. All right. A lot of this class, according to his stuff, is a little slower, but they're juniors, so I imagine they take a big step up their senior year. But anyway,
let me just say this. I'm sorry. I'm going to change the subject here. Donovan Green leading Wake Forest in receiving is not out there.
He's never
not out
there receiving. He's a senior.
He was on his way. Donovan Green is not a senior.
He's a fourth year player. So whatever you want to call him, he's a 4th year player.
He was injured all of last year. Last year he would have went off had he been healthy. So I mean, we're just I don't think
something called you out in the chat about that for the listeners. For listeners
now.
For the listeners in the Slack, I want to say it might have been PJ. Someone called him out and be like, who did this?
It was Nate Marquise, wasn't it? Which, like, he doesn't usually ever post anything in there. He just came in and was like, who the hell posted this on Twitter?
Yeah, Nate is such a background character that when he speaks up, you gotta listen.
I love that we all knew right away it was Felix, though.
Oh, yeah. There was like, I didn't even know what was going on, and I was like, it was Felix. If anybody posted something controversial on a player, it was Felix.
I'm a huge Donovan Green fan. I didn't think anyone else was, so I was kind of like, all right.
I don't think A.T. Perry's a legitimate Devy guy.
I don't think he is either.
I think
he's
that
a
talk
skeleton.
is goofy, but yeah.
As a matter of fact,
he's gonna out-receive.
I'm compiling a list of overrated players, and he is like in my top 5.
Add Cedric Tillman at this point to that list too. He's like getting first round draft capital on mocks. I think that's too much.
I'm telling you, he's going to go in the range that Michael Pittman went in. I have
Cedric Tillman or Isaiah Nayor.
Nayor, yeah, Nayor.
Probably Nayor slightly.
Here's the thing too, another draft trend is that usually there's like one late declare guy each year. Sometimes it's 0, sometimes it's 2. So I'm like averaging out at 1. Like one late declare guy actually becomes fantasy relevant. Like each year. And next year you got Wicks, Nayor, Cowing all coming out, and Jaden Reed. That's like the 4 big names for me. So it's like which one of those 4 is going to be the guy that I'm in the Nayor train to be relevant.
I think Nayor is kind of overrated, but he's fine. He's kind of clunky as a mover, in my opinion.
Okay. I think
personalized, but
yeah, I do a lot of projecting. I think I want to say Luke asked me so long ago about like, do you do a lot of projecting? I think he asked in a chat on a show one time. And I really thought about this last week. And then like the answer is like, yeah. Because I'm looking on like Jarion Dickey for the 24 class. And I do like his profile and his like physical frame, I think is maxed out, which is fine. That means he can like grow into it athletically and get those numbers up. But I'm like concerned about Oregon. Like, why would anyone go to Oregon?
I think it's going to be a totally different team there in the next couple of years. So Oregon is not necessarily off-putting to me. I mean, they're in the hunt for Rashada and Dante Moore. I don't know if they'll get either of them because Moore just seems to want to get as much money as possible, which is like starting to red flag me pretty hard about him. But like Rashada ending up there in an offense where like I think they're going to want him to push the ball downfield, I think would be a perfect marriage. I think he would work well there with Troy Franklin, with Deontay Thornton, with a bunch of these guys.
Yeah,
personally, but
okay. Tavion Wicks is not overrated. All right, he has a good release package. He's a good player, but I do think as far as the pros go, he might just be like a Michael Gallup, like a boomer bust, wide receiver 4 or 5 on your roster. But yeah, I am a little worried about what his ceiling is. But I think he'll definitely have a glad to know the kids aren't down.
What?
I'm glad to know you didn't put the kids down,
No, it's summertime. They'll be up till I went to work at 3:00 this morning and both of them were still up playing games on their tablets. So
no fucking way.
Yeah, I'm not kidding.
Damn.
Yeah. It's summertime, man. Do whatever you want. Just don't wake me up because I got to get up early. That's all I care about.
Fair enough.
Yeah, there's no rules to that house.
I think my mom would have killed me if I tried that.
Yeah, I used to sneak downstairs growing up. Got caught a few times. I don't know. Does Matt just like come down to the fridge, like pop open the milk carton, getting that late night drink and just like look over the kids, be like, all right.
No, they're literally sitting in my living room, just like sitting. We just bought them like these brand new like big beanbag chairs recently, and like I came out. My wife comes home at midnight. It's not like they were just sitting up all night by themselves. I'm gonna get like CPS calls on me. Like I just walked out here. My wife was sitting here watching TV at like 3:00 in the morning, and both my kids were just sitting on their tablets. Like, okay, well, love you guys. I'm going to work. Just get up and leave. It don't matter to me. I don't have to go do anything tomorrow.
Man, I miss those days.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that.
That's awesome. Oh man. Are you guys able to follow the program draft for the NFL side or like not at all?
No, because I hate sleepers, so I don't care at all to go look at it. I'll look at the teams when they're done.
I was talking to Matt, big receiver guy. I was like, yo, I like your pick. It was like Treylon Burks in like the late 5th. And he was like, I hate my team. And I was like, why? He's like, I got no quarterbacks. And I sent him an offer. And it was like 100% taking advantage of the information I just got. And he's just like, this is the most disrespectful thing you said to me this whole process.
I'm in this bonkers C2C startup right now. We did the NFL side first, and we only have to start one running back. So I just faded this shit out of running back. I took Leonard Fournette in like the 8th round. It was like my one quarterback I took. I just loaded up on wide receivers because we only had to start one. And now we're drafting the college side. We have to draft more on the college side, but I think like the settings on the NFL side should at least slightly influence what you're doing. This dude through 7 rounds has taken 7 running backs. He's literally only taken running backs from the 2 spot. It's fucking bonkers. I've never seen this before. He went Bijan, Braylon Allen, Jaden Blue, Blake Corum, Jace McClellan, Kendall Milton, Israel Abanikanda through 7 rounds.
Wow.
I've taken 1 because, again, I don't
just
have
need
to
one
start.
good one.
I took Gibbs in the 1st round. I was like, okay,
we're good. There you go. And then he'll be the one next year. Yeah. Awesome. That's hilarious.
It's just so weird seeing in this new draft room on Fantrax. It's just red the whole way down.
Yeah, I see it just straight down. Yeah. Oh, I actually do have a question for you guys. I should have asked them when Felix was here. I'm kind of ripping off the fantasy footballers here, but I heard the question on their show. Wanted to ask you guys the same question. Of the 3 hosts that were on here tonight, so Matt, Austin, and Felix, if the 3 of you guys had to co-manage a team in the positions where one person has to draft the team, another person has to do the starting lineups, and the other person does the trading, who's doing each of those jobs out of you 3?
So I would definitely make sure Felix sets the lineups because I don't trust him making trades and or doing the draft.
It's like when
I don't
you're
care
like
about
your
the
middle
other
school
2.
team, and you're like, where can this kid do the least damage?
Exactly. Felix would be put on lineup construction every single week, and hopefully it's a best ball league too, and then we're set. We don't have to worry about it. I don't care about the other side. I'm fine if Austin does the draft or if he trades. Like I mean, I feel like Austin would probably be better on the drafting side of things because he's less emotional about certain. Like if there's a player that I'm attached to, I'll reach a couple rounds earlier to make sure I get him. Although it didn't work out for me last year in Kyle McCord, but most of the time I don't have an issue reaching for certain players. But I don't typically. I feel like I'm much more stringent on trading. Like I did the trade with Austin this offseason for Kyle McCord, Lorenzo Styles, but like typically I won't make a trade unless I feel like I'm winning it. And that one I was just because like I had 1 share of Kyle McCord besides the one I just got from Austin.
That was the pride trade of the offseason because at the time I had been really talking up Lorenzo Styles, and so we did it straight up. That's a good one.
So would you agree then, Austin, you'd be the drafter and Matt would be the trader?
I'd be fine with that. I don't really like negotiating with people, so that's completely fine with me. I hate that part of Austin does reach. So for the Devy Debate Listener League, so last year I got burned in the startup hard on the college side. Okay. I underestimated how much everybody having my ranks and like knowing my sleepers in a 14-team startup would screw me. And I never really caught on. Well, by like round 15, like the guy usually taking around 35 is gone. I'm like, well, this sucks. So I ended up with a bunch of dudes that I never draft anywhere. It didn't really go very well year 1. So I kind of blew some things up, and that's how I ended up with all the picks. But this year in the supplemental draft, now I'm just like I just wrote that article about like 8 stashes you should be looking at that are like, you know, good projections forward. It was like draft Cartavius Norton in the 6th to 8th round. I took him in the 3rd. I was like, I'm not waiting for any of you fuckers to read this article to take my guys. So that's been
it's funny because I don't know if we published this stuff then, but like I know a lot of our Devy Debate after shows were the 3 of us complaining about that last year because like it was like even all the guys that we liked were getting grabbed and it's like, man, what the like it kind of I think none of us realized like these people are listening to us every single week and we didn't really catch on that they're going to know who we're in on and who we want, and so they were just grabbing them before we could.
Like someone
really
took
wanna-
Clay Millen in like round 11. I was like,
Yeah.
oh shit. Like,
this guy listens.
this is not going well.
Yeah, I really want to tweet stuff about like NFL players right now, but because of the program, like I really care about that league. Like I really was like, no, I won't say anything for the next like 2 weeks because I want to get this NFL draft done. I want to be like,
what round are you guys in?
middle of the 6th.
Oh, okay.
Middle of the 6th. I reached for a player. I'm not really sure how I feel about it.
Who'd you reach for?
I traded up to the 2-4 to grab Javonte Williams.
I'm fine with it.
So my roster right now is Herbert, CMC, Javonte, Deontay Johnson, and then Derek Carr.
All right, I like it. I mean,
it.
quarterback wise, you're stacked because it's that Scott Fishbowl scoring, which I don't think a lot of people like. You've got to have good quarterbacks. That's a big thing that helps push you over.
Yeah, Big West River guy's pretty screwed. He took his first quarterback last round. Nope, in the 4th, and he took Zach Wilson. So that's what he's dealing with right now.
Yeah, he put up like multiple negative weeks. It's like that's the thing. Everybody looks at that. And you want those rushing quarterbacks, right? But not with this scoring. It's guys who just complete passes, don't have a lot of interceptions and turnovers. That's going to be kind of the big thing.
So like Mac Jones. Mac Jones is going to be a big deal.
Mac Jones was good last year. He was.
Okay, wait.
Because of the scoring.
All right, my pick's up in like 5. I might have to scoop up Mac Jones.
I meant to bring this up earlier, Austin, because I know you guys. I didn't know Mike was so deep into the 23 and 24 class. Like, how excited should I be about the fact that there's a chance that the Buckeyes are going to land Brandon Inniss, Carnell Tate, and Noah Rogers?
I don't get the hype on Tate.
I'm not big on Tate, or I thought so. I know Austin's really big on Jonte Cook.
Yeah.
When I watched him, I thought he was really good at angles. Like he's probably the best player I've seen manipulate angles. But like I don't know, like that's not really something that I like in a prospect. So I grade him pretty highly actually so far. I think he's like number 5 or 6, but he's not in my tier 1, and I don't know, dude. I'm sitting there like he's nothing in his game is flashy. He just knows where to hit and how fast to go, and that's just it. Like that's how he makes his hay. There's nothing's flashy about his game to me.
I think that's a huge skill in its own right.
Yeah.
I kind of just don't have to think about it at all. Noah Rogers is really interesting. He kind of reminds me of like a Dakari or a Bo Collins. Like I think Clemson was in on him, and it makes complete sense. Like he's exactly what Clemson wants at the position. I like Inniss a lot. I know, Mike, you weren't as high on him, but I think he's a little harder to get a read on because he played a lot of quarterback last year. Because their quarterback went down like game 3 or something pretty early.
Brandon Inniss?
Didn't Inniss play a lot of quarterback last year? Or am I thinking of someone different?
I think you're thinking of is it Niblett? Niblett played a lot of quarterback.
I haven't watched any Niblett. I don't even know who that is.
He's the Texas commit. He's my lowest graded guy. I'm not big on him at all.
I could have sworn Brandon Inniss played a bunch of quarterback last year.
He's my wide receiver 1. He's my number 1. I'm huge on him. I think I messaged you about him. I was like, when are you gonna get to Brandon Inniss? I thought he looked polished to me. Like I liked a lot about his game. He reminded me of Garrett Wilson, honestly, but like a little more physical, like a little more contact balance to his game.
So you'll probably know the answer to this, Mike. Where did Mac Jones finish in like regular fantasy leagues last year?
Oh, I want to say 18 or 19.
Okay.
He had a nice hot streak at the end of like 3 games of 20 points.
Yeah. No. He had more QB1 weeks than any other rookie did. He had 6. I looked that up. He had
Davis
6.
Mills. Davis Mills had like 4 or 5.
Yeah, he only had 4. It was Mac Jones had 6, Justin Fields, Davis Mills both had 4, Trevor Lawrence had. No, I'm sorry, they had 5, Trevor Lawrence had 4. And Zach Wilson had 2.
I got it up here. Mac Jones was at 18 and
so he finished at 16 in the program. Zach Wilson did not finish as a top 32 scoring quarterback.
That's terrible.
In the scoring here. Sam Darnold, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Tyler Huntley finished above Zach Wilson. So yeah, not great.
Mac Jones had that negative game too against
Not
Buffalo
great,
where they ran the ball the whole game. So
yeah.
But anyway, I wish I could say I'm more excited this year for the Patriots, but like the offense didn't change, and so I don't like. When am I going to get like 200 more passing yards out of the Patriots? Like I don't know.
He had a -9 game. 2.
Yeah, was that against Buffalo?
Mac Jones. Yeah, at the end of the
They
year.
just ran it. They just ran it the whole time. Yeah, that's when they ran. He had 3 attempts the whole game.
Woof.
What a terrible game that was to watch.
Well, future NFL champ Kenny Pickett says hi, so can't say that with a straight face.
I'm also a really big fan of Hakeem Williams. Like a huge fan. Like I love watching his tape. I love that he actually put blocking on his tape. A lot of pancaking dudes as a receiver.
He is my favorite tall, I think. Let me double check. Well, I mean, I like some other taller guys. I mean, Greathouse is 6'2", Rodgers is like 6'2", 6'3", but I really like Hakeem Williams. I think the problem with Hakeem Williams is that he doesn't know how to play football at all. And I mean that in like the nicest way possible.
Like he just uses his physical gifts.
Like he's just fast as shit. He's fluid as shit, and he can't like run any routes. Like he just it's literally all yak. It's like catch it like 3 yards from line of scrimmage and then just freaking burn everybody. So if he can, like, I think Georgia would be an awful place for him to go. His Final Four or whatever is so damn weird.
I thought Georgia was a good place because I thought Georgia likes the bullying type of receivers. I thought he fits the mold of what they develop.
I'm just not sure. Like overall, they've done a really good job of utilizing wide receivers like in the best way they should be used. And like you could even argue like they developed Adonai Mitchell. Like I think people are too high on Adonai Mitchell at current state. Like what's he gonna? He's gonna catch 30 passes there next year max for like 432 yards and 4 touchdowns. Like he's not gonna do anything.
And I'm pretty against the athletic receivers to get high draft capital. Like that's being athletic and raw is fine going from high school to college, but once you're going from college to the NFL, like I don't really want the raw guys anymore. It's just rare that it hits, but when it does hit, it hits pretty big. But
it doesn't really ever hit. I'm not a huge fan of that. If you don't know how to play football by the time we get to the NFL, you've failed.
It's just DK Metcalf, I think, right? Like DK Metcalf was like the last one was just raw and just.
Well, and the thing is, he was a round 2 pick. Like I'm willing to take him. In the second round, but yeah, like he was not particularly polished. I thought I really loved Brown that year. But what do I know?
Right.
Should we call this thing off?
We should.
Everyone else left us.
Yeah. Hopefully Matt trades up for a quarterback here soon. Since he was